think of... I don't know how to explain it.
It's just past 4 a.m. in Brisbane's central business district. The streets are quiet. The sky still clings to night. Somewhere near Roma Street, a young woman hurries to her cleaning shift at a city hotel. She's only been in Australia for 6 weeks. She was new to the job, new to the country. She has earbuds in, listening to music, a jacket zipped tight against the early morning chill. She doesn't know she's being watched. She doesn't know someone else is already awake and waiting. What happened next is so extreme that even seasoned paramedics couldn't immediately tell if the person lying under the tree in Wickham Park was a man or a woman. When police arrive, they follow a trail and they find something else that makes this already unthinkable scene even worse. The person responsible didn't just leave a body, they left a message, and one that no one will ever forget. By the way, this is Dark Case, and you can call me Jack. I bring you rare and unseen true crime cases, as well as other things that you may later regret knowing, with multiple uploads every single week. So if any of that sounds like your kind of thing, then join the Dark Case family now by hitting subscribe and turning all notifications on. And now for today's silly little question. If you could be 2 feet taller or 2 feet shorter, which one would you pick? Let me know down in the comments. All of your support over on Patreon, as well as via channel memberships here on YouTube, are so appreciated, and I really can't thank you all enough. However, thank you. But now, on with the video. Wickham Park sits on a slope above Brisbane's central business district. It's not the kind of place where people feel nervous walking through in daylight. The stairs leading up from Albert Street are flanked by tall trees and city sounds. And in the early mornings, it's mostly delivery trucks, street cleaners, and the occasional worker heading in early. And that's what Eunji Ban was doing that Sunday morning in November of 2013. She was 22 years old, a student from South Korea on a youth exchange visa. Eunji had been in Australia for just 40 days. She was renting a room nearby. She was studying English and also working a part-time job at a hotel to support herself. Friends and teachers would later describe her as warm, bright, and incredibly motivated. Of course, she missed her family, but she also loved being in Brisbane. She kept in touch with her younger twin brothers, who still lived back at home constantly. She was especially close to her mother, and she called her my daughter, my best friend. The plan was to finish her language studies, to get some international work experience, and then to return home. But that future disappeared the moment she walked out of her apartment that morning. What happened to Eunji wasn't a mugging. It wasn't even really a planned attack. Not in a traditional sense. She just had the misfortune of crossing paths with the wrong person. Someone who would later admit that he'd gone out that morning looking to kill. But when police first arrived at the scene, it was what they found on the tree, strands of hair, carefully twisted and arranged like a garland, that chilled investigators to their core. Police began piecing together her final movements by reviewing CCTV from the early morning hours of November the 24th. At 3:55 a.m, Eunji was captured walking alone down Albert Street. She wore dark pants and a jacket. Her stride was steady. Nothing looked unusual. She only had a short walk ahead of her. In fact, it was less than 10 minutes to the hotel. However, she never arrived. Between 4 and 4:10 a.m, something happened on those steps between Albert Street and Wickham Park. The crime scene told its own story. There were pools of red on the footpath. There was hair caught in the guardrails. Visible scuff marks indicated dragging. And at the top of the stairs, investigators found more red, more hair, and finally, Eunji Ban's body under a pine tree. The damage inflicted on her was almost entirely to the face. Virtually every bone was broken. Her time on this earth actually came to an end by drowning on her own fluids. But still, the person responsible wasn't done. They arranged her hair, twisting strands around the branches of the tree beside her. Investigators said it looked deliberate, ritualistic, even decorative. A forensic officer later said it resembled tinsel on a Christmas tree. To some officers, it felt like a taunt, and yet there were no obvious clues about who had done this. And just to reiterate, this wasn't a robbery, it wasn't a mugging gone wrong. Eunji's phone was left behind, so was her money. Nothing about this attack pointed towards a reason, it just appeared to be the result of a horrifying rage. It had been fast, violent, and strangely personal. That day, as word of the attack spread, the Korean community in Brisbane was devastated. Eunji Ban was one of over 4,000 Korean students in the city. She'd come to learn and work like many others. Within just hours, flowers and handwritten notes began to appear near the park, and by the next day, her parents were now on a flight from Korea. The pressure on police to find answers and to find them fast was immense. But it turned out they wouldn't have to search very far, because even before investigators had a suspect, 3 separate calls came in. They were all from people saying the same chilling thing. They knew someone who had confessed. One of the first people to come forward was a young man named Luke Appleton. He'd been with a friend the night before, a friend who showed up at his apartment, deep in the early hours, agitated and vague. According to Luke, this friend, someone who he'd known for years, said something that seemed so out of character that he didn't even believe it at first. Luke said, he just said straight up, "I killed someone last night," and he thought this was a sick joke, but his friend insisted. He told Luke that he'd been walking alone through the city, that he'd seen someone across the road, and then just attacked. "I started punching them and kicking them," he said, dragged the body up some stairs and left it behind a tree. To Luke, none of this made sense. His friend hadn't been drunk, at least not heavily, nor was he known to be violent. But Luke wasn't the only one who got that confession. Another friend, Hayden Buchanan, received a phone call at around the same time. "I just went for a walk and killed someone," the voice said. Hayden asked him why, and he replied coldly, "I just felt like it." The final confession was to a longtime friend, a man named Blake Cooper. Blake said he asked why it happened, and the man said, "I wanted a way out. I was sick of everything, and she was just the first person I saw."
I said, "Why did you kill a chick?" He said, "He just felt like it." I said, "You can't get away with that. You're going to jail." He said, "Yeah, I know." Those same friends reported McEwan to Crime Stoppers the following day.
This man, who confessed 3 separate times within just moments of the attack, was 19-year-old Alex Reuben McEwan. He lived just blocks away from Wickham Park. Alex had no criminal history. He'd recently finished an apprenticeship as a spray painter, a normal guy. But that morning, he returned to his apartment shirtless and shaken. His hand was injured, later bandaged at the hospital, and then within 24 hours he was in custody. Alex didn't resist arrest. In fact, he confessed again almost immediately. In fact, before officers even arrived at the station, they recorded him in the back of the police car, where he said some really strange things. Here is the available footage of his initial confession.
What did you do?
Out of her face.
Why?
Like I said, I didn't actually do it. I didn't think of... I don't know how to explain it. It's a demon. It's been troubling me my whole life.
Why the girl?
First person I saw.
Did she say anything?
No, she just screamed for help.
It was a crime that shocked the city. The body of Eunji Ban found bloodied and bruised at Wickham Park in November 2013. The 22-year-old Korean student had been in Brisbane just 6 weeks and was killed less than a kilometre from her apartment, on her way to work as a hotel cleaner. Almost 4 years later, the man accused of her murder is on trial. Alex Reuben McEwan was 19 when he was arrested and charged. Today, he pleaded not guilty to murder. Prosecutors told the court McEwan allegedly bashed Ms. Ban, then dragged her up a flight of stairs.
As soon as the trial began, Alex McEwan's defence was clear. Yes, he had killed Eunji Ban, but he argued that he wasn't in control. He had been battling severe mental illness for years now. His family said that he changed at around age 16, becoming withdrawn, erratic and distant. His sister told the court that she believed he was possessed when he attacked Eunji. Alex himself claimed he was under the influence of a demon called Jazzy. He described Jazzy as a towering figure with horse-like legs, a goat-like head and a muscular torso. He told police that Jazzy had been with him since childhood, that the demon followed him even in his sleep, that he felt sick from its presence. And that night, he said, Jazzy took over. I couldn't control my body, he told the jury. I was trying to stop myself. I was trying to call out for help. In his version of events, he was a passenger in his own mind and body.
Now, Alex McEwan has admitted he killed Eunji Ban, 22-year-old Korean national, back in November 2013, but he's pleaded not guilty on the grounds of insanity and diminished responsibility. Andrew, the trial is set to continue tomorrow.
He says he remembers hitting Eunji and he remembers dragging her, but he claims he only knew it was real after checking news reports later that day. He vomited that morning, he said, overwhelmed by guilt. He then went to the hospital to get his hand treated. In the days that followed, Alex wrote letters to the Ban family. I wish I could take it all back and give her a bunch of roses instead, he wrote in one note, but the prosecution just didn't buy it. They argued that Alex was not psychotic, instead he was calculating, that he exaggerated his symptoms to psychiatrists in order to avoid responsibility. They said that his references to Jazzy only appeared once he realised how horrific the attack had been. This is all available footage of Alex being interviewed at the police station after his arrest.
It's all a blur. That's why it's another reason I wanted to see her face.
Describe for me what she looked like when you first saw her.
I don't know, I didn't look at her. I just said I was going to think about it, I just did it. Yeah.
Did she say anything?
No. But she didn't scream, she didn't have time to, it was just a begging no.
So she was begging no. Yeah.
Begging no for me not to hurt her. Die. Didn't have to walk this way. Just shit like that.
Were you speaking
to her? While she was dead. While I was bashing her.
So after the initial assault on the footpath, what can you remember happening from there?
Trying to pick her up. Couldn't. So I dragged her across the road and up the steps. By her hair. I think I tried to decorate that tree with her hair. That was all in my fingers. I was only crime scene
on the footpath across the road and up the steps and where you found her.
Why couldn't you pick her up?
She was heavy. It's harder than you think to pick up a dead body.
Live now to Ebony Cavallaro at court, where a jury has heard an explosive confession in the case of a man charged over the murder of a Korean student. Ebony, what did he say?
Well, Andrew, the jury heard that Alex McEwan told police he'd been waiting to kill someone his entire life and that he'd even drawn pictures of it throughout his life. The shocking confession was recorded by police when they arrested McEwan a day after Korean woman Eunji Ban was killed.
One line from the prosecutor summed up their stance. It's not madness, it's evil. And they had evidence to back up that claim. McEwan told police that he'd been waiting his whole life to kill someone, that he wanted to do it, that Eunji was simply the first person he saw. He even admitted lying down next to her body afterwards to make it look like they were just drunk together so that passing taxi drivers wouldn't get suspicious of what he'd done. When the court heard this, you could feel the tension in the room shift. This wasn't just about demons or mental illness anymore. It was about whether a man could brutally end someone's life and still find a way to convince the world that he wasn't responsible. Over the course of the trial, psychiatrists gave deeply conflicting testimony. Some said that Alex suffered from treatment-resistant schizophrenia, that he was displaying symptoms consistent with psychosis even before the crime, that his delusions were real to him, especially the belief that a demon was manipulating his actions. One expert said McEwan wasn't evil, he was just sick. But 3 other doctors disagreed. They said that he was not psychotic at the time of the event, and that he was fully aware of what he was doing, and that his supposed delusions were more performative than genuine. In fact, the jury heard that Alex told a psychiatrist in 2016 that he had exaggerated his symptoms because it would distress his mother if he were convicted of murder. That admission, that he had manipulated his own mental health assessment, was devastating to the defense. It painted a picture, not of a man out of touch with reality, but of someone trying to escape the consequences of a crime he had freely committed. There were other moments that reinforced that theory too. Alex told police that he had throttled Eunji, that he punched her in the face over and over, more than 100 times by his count, that he had also stomped on her head, and that as she lay dying he yelled, "Die, bitch, die." He also told investigators that she had begged him to stop, begged him not to hurt her, but he carried on. When asked why he attacked a woman, he replied, "She was just the first person I saw." That level of detachment, of casual cruelty, it was hard to reconcile with someone claiming a complete loss of control or of being possessed. The jury didn't take long to make their decision, after a trial that spanned weeks, and this was after years of delay due to psychiatric evaluations. They returned their verdict in a single day. The Ban family had flown in once again from Korea. They held each other and wept as the verdict was read. Alex Reuben McEwan was found guilty of murder. The courtroom erupted into quiet, shaking sobs. Outside court, Eunji's mother stood behind a podium. Her voice trembled as she read a letter aloud, one she had written to her daughter. Translated from Korean, it said, "Nothing can bring you back. It's been 4 years and 9 months. It's been a lifetime for us. It's been devastating. I wish I could turn the clock back. I miss you so much. With your love and our beautiful memories, I will keep on going, my dearest daughter."
And she was a lovely elder sister to her 2 twin brothers. In fact, on the day of her death, 2 twin brothers were celebrating their birthdays. So it left a very big hole in their lives.
On the day that Eunji passed, her younger twin brothers had been celebrating their birthday. Now, every year, that date arrives with a hollow ache. Her father said that Alex's sentence gave the family little comfort. Yes, he will be in prison, he said, but he can still see his parents, his loved ones. For us, Eunji is gone forever, until we meet again in heaven. He also said something else quietly but firmly. We were willing to forgive him, but in court, we didn't see a genuine apology. We saw excuses. Brisbane too had felt the weight of this case. Eunji Ban was a visitor, young, bright and full of dreams. She had been in the city barely 6 weeks before Alex found her. More than 1,000 people attended her memorial. Flowers were left along the path that she had walked that morning. Notes in Korean and English said things like, "You were one of us." The mayor addressed her family directly. "The city of Brisbane grieves with you." Even the English school that she attended released a statement. They called her kind, motivated and a beautiful person. One teacher said, "Everyone is stricken at the horror of it." Because Eunji wasn't doing anything reckless, she wasn't doing anything wrong, she was simply walking to work to better her own life. When it came time for sentencing, Justice Rosalind Atkinson did not hold back. She looked at Alex McEwan in the eyes and told him, "You decided to go out and to kill someone. You treated that poor young woman with cruelty, degradation and contempt." She described his actions as sadistic, driven by violent urges, not by psychosis. You broke virtually every bone in her face, and, not content with that, you dragged her across the road and up the stairs to hide her body. She did acknowledge that he was diagnosed with schizophrenia after the murder, but she said clearly, "That was not the reason you committed this terrible crime." The judge paused and then added, "She was a visitor from a foreign country. She was doing something completely normal. She leaves behind a family with a fathomless grief, and you alone, are responsible for that."
Well, the jury has found Alex McEwan guilty of murdering Korean student Eunji Ban. The jury taking just a day to find him guilty of this heinous crime when he bashed her to death as she walked to work back in November 2013. McEwan, now 25, then a 19-year-old, had tried to blame it on a demon called Jazzy that he was supposedly possessed by, and that demon had told him to kill her. But the jury simply couldn't go past the testimony from 3 different psychiatrists who said that Alex McEwan knew exactly what he was doing when he murdered Eunji Ban, and that he only developed schizophrenia after he was arrested and charged with her murder. Now, we heard during the sentencing today some victim impact statements that were read out to the court from the prosecution and also the judge, talking about the impact that this has particularly had on Eunji's family. Her father can no longer work. The mother can only work part-time because when she sees other Korean students around the same age that Eunji was, she was 22 when she was killed, she simply breaks down and cries. Now, the judge sentenced McEwan to life in jail. She said that was the only sentence that he deserved. It is a mandatory sentence, and that she said he was a risk and still remains a risk to the community, but he could be eligible for parole as early as 2033. We'll have more.
When Alex Reuben McEwan was sentenced to life in prison, he showed no visible emotion. An excerpt from a letter that Alex wrote reads, "I will probably change my last name so that I am not a McEwan anymore, because McEwans don't do murder. Don't forgive me, don't think of me ever again." The last words spoken on record were from Justice Atkinson. Somehow you must live with this for the rest of your life. Be careful out there, and I'll see you soon.